Hey everybody, Terrence here from Engadget. We're taking a look at the Samsung Focus Flash, one of the latest Mango handsets coming to AT&T. As you can see, he's a little guy, kind of an unassuming device. If we bring in the all but ubiquitous iPhone 4, you can see they're roughly the same size, same height, roughly the same width. I think the iPhone is just a tad wider, and almost the same thickness. The Focus Flash is just a hair thicker at 0.41 inches. The screen is bigger than the iPhone's, though. This is a 3.7-inch Super AMOLED screen. We'll get to that a little bit more in a minute. And it actually feels quite nice in the hand. It's not as heavy as an iPhone, but it's actually a little bit heavier than its big brother that's coming out around the same time, the Samsung Focus S, which is actually a 4.3-inch device, which makes it a little strange that it's quite a bit lighter than this one. If you want to start around back, you can see we've got the battery plate here, which is one of these things that kind of snaps off the whole thing, and then you pop it back on, which always kind of makes us feel like we're going to break the phone, makes us very nervous, but, you know, haven't broken it yet. We pulled it off a couple of times. What makes it kind of unique, at least amongst a lot of the Samsung line of phones, is this right here. That strip on the battery plate, that's metal. Actual metal. So, you know, I mean, there's still a lot of plastic around the edges and around the front, like most of the Samsung devices, but this right here, this is, you know, a nice thin plate of metal. It feels really nice in the hand, actually lends it quite a premium feel, especially considering the $50 price point. It's kind of got this rounded, almost trapezoidal shape that fits really nicely in the hand, feels really natural. We're able to reach everything with ease. Now, if you come around the side, you'll see there's a volume rocker on the left, which is nice and clicky. On the right, you've got the power button, same thing. It's got a nice amount of feedback. And then right here is the dedicated camera button. Unfortunately, we were a little less impressed with this than we were with the rest of the hardware on the device. We were excited to have a dedicated camera button, something we think every phone should have, but this two-stage guy was a little bit of a letdown. The initial press to focus is perhaps a little too easy, but actually pressing it down to take a photo results in just a little bit of movement. It's hard to make out, but it's just enough to knock a lot of photos out of focus. It seems to be a little further recessed than some of the other buttons, so you have to press it in a little bit further and just a little bit too much resistance without any of that satisfying click. There's one other hardware button on the phone. You can see right up front is this Windows button. It's an actual physical button, and that's flanked by the back and search buttons, both of which are capacitive. The search button turned out to be a particularly big problem because the capacitive buttons are just a tad overly sensitive, and when we were trying to take pictures, we found that our thumb naturally wanted to go right to that search button and dragged us into Bing and out of the camera app. Now, this 3.7-inch display, it's only 480 by 800, as all Windows phones, Phone 7 devices are. But at this size, it's really hard to notice the lack of pixels. And honestly, Metro's solid blocks of color and very sharp lines makes it even harder to notice that you're not getting a 720p or QHD screen here. And the Super AMOLED is really quite perfectly suited for Metro and Windows Phone 7 because it really has a lot of contrast, really dark blacks, really bright whites. It looks really great. The only thing that we did notice is there is a slight blue hue to things when you have things set to white. Let me change the theme for you real quick and see if you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Now, it may look white here, but if you put it and compare it next to another device, let's say my Droid X, you can see that there is this slight tinge to the screen. But it's not a huge deal. It's not going to ruin your experience with the phone. Inside, we're also looking at a 1.4 gigahertz processor, Snapdragon. It's only a single core, as all Windows Phone devices are, once again. But it's not a huge deal. Whereas a lot of Android phones might balk at a single core at this point, Windows Phone 7 is so highly optimized for the processor that you don't even notice. It runs beautifully, perfectly smooth, animations are nice. You know, there's not a hesitation or a hiccup between anything. Smooth as butter, really. Lastly, no discussion of this device would be complete without talking about the cameras. Around back, right next to the speakerphone, which you can see right there, which is serviceable but nothing to write home about, is the 5 megapixel shooter and its single LED flash. It takes acceptable photos, you know, fine for occasional snapshots outdoors in daylight. Low light performance was pretty terrible, and the flash had a tendency to completely wash anything out that was closer than, say, 6 feet away. So keep a hold of your DSLRs, keep a hold of your point and shoots, but for a quick snapshot or two, this will suffice. Around front is this 1.3 megapixel shooter, which was quite a bit more of a disappointment. It'll probably be fine for occasional video chats, Skyping, whatever, but the photos captured with it were roundly pretty terrible. They're very grainy, color reproduction was very, very flat. I'll show you real quick here. You can see, let me just take a picture and zoom in on it, and you can see how grainy it is, just even on this screen. So that's it. This is the Samsung Focus S. It's landing on November 6th for $50 with a 2-year contract. Thanks for watching.